Today we are learning Lineage of Yehuda, and we're on SUCCAH Daf Zayin on base with the last three words of Zayin Amud Yomi. Gemorah says Gufa Marava. Turn the page. Gufa Marava. Sichech Agape Movoi Shreish Lechi Kshera. So, a person puts SUCCAH over a Movoi. What's a movie? A movie is a small road, right? You got a wall on this side, a wall on this side. That's what we were discussing till now. Legabi Shabbos, legabi SUCCAH. You put your SUCCAH on top of the movie. Without a lechi, it's possible. You need three walls. You've got two walls. It's a road. Possible. But yesh lechi. If you put a lechi, what's a lechi? A lechi is, like we said before, lechi is you put a small beam on one of the entrances. On one of the walls, you got two walls here. One wall, you put like a stick, right? Little beam. Then it's kshera. So it's kshera for SUCCAH. In other words, why? Because of migu. Since it's good for Shabbos, the lechi is enough for Shabbos to call it a Rosh Hashanah. So now you can also call it a SUCCAH, and you can use it as a SUCCAH, right? Rava, that's first in of Rava. So Rava said, you have a lechi there, the SUCCAH kshera. Rava sichach agabe pasei beirais kshera. We spoke about this a couple of days ago. What's sichach agabe pasei beirais? We have these wells in the Rosh Hashanah. You can't take out the water from the well because the well is more than 10 tefachim down. It's a different Rosh Hashanah. You take it out. So how do you feed it's for the behemoths, they let you do this, not for people drinking. In order that you should be able to feed your animals on Shabbos, so what they did was they put 4 little posts on each side. Each post is L-shaped, right? I think you have a picture there in the top of your gemorah. You got a picture there. 4 L-shaped walls. I guess each one's going to be 10 tefach high, and then it's like its own rishus. So if you put SUCCAH on top of those 4 posts, kasha. Now you'll notice that you don't have your 2 full walls and the shlish tefach. You've got 3 tefach walls, right? So what's going on over here? How can it work? Why is that working? So take a look in Rashi, top Rashi. Rashi is pasei berais. So what's talking about over here? The Peirik Sheni De'ervin. Tanan. It says in the Mishnah that for people that used to come on Chag to Yerushalayim, last is birayis shivushisarabim our passing kumodyildim. They let you make 4 of these pillars, which have 2 duamudim, 2 pillars. That is, each one is L-shaped. You got 2 and 2. And we look at it as if there's a wall between all 4 of these pillars. Amudim. So what you're left with? Turns out that this well is surrounded by 4 walls. You've got your 4 beautiful imaginary walls. So now the well is surrounded by 4 walls, and that's all one rishus. So therefore what? Now you can take water out of your well and feed your animals within those 4 imaginary walls. And if you put SUCCAH on top of it, says Rashi, only on Shabbos of SUCCAH it's kasha. And the rest of SUCCAH is pasul. L'chayra. Since on that Shabbos it's considered a house, it's considered a Rosh Hashanah, it's also considered SUCCAH. But on Sunday of SUCCAH, says Rashi, it's not good. In other words, you need to have an active migu. You need to have an active since it works for Shabbos, it works for SUCCAH, for it to be kosher SUCCAH. But the rest of the week is possible. Why? Says Rashi, the migu, since to have a doif in the Shabbos, since you need this, and Chazal gave you an imaginary wall here, vis-a-vis Shabbos, have a doif in the SUCCAH, therefore it's also considered a doif, it's a wall for SUCCAH, and you go to go SUCCAH, you can have your sandwiches in the SUCCAH, you can be mekayim mitzvah SUCCAH, it's beautiful, right?
Isn't it always a dofen l'Shabbos, even if it's not on Shabbos? Still kosher as a kosher dofen for Shabbos.
It's a kosher dofen for Shabbos.
It's not Shabbos today, but it's still a kosher dofen. So your migo stays, no?
No, because you don't need it now. So that's what it's saying. You say the gemorah is saying we're going to see. Well, you're making a very interesting point, but Rashi says no. Rashi says only on Shabbos where you need to use that migu does it work. Now Rashi says, well, what's the big chiddush over here of Rava? I'm going to address your point in a second. What's the big chiddush of Rava? Va'af agav in Rashi means kasha. V'kasha. You need two kosher walls, right? So even though you don't have two proper walls, you've got these imaginary walls. And therefore it's good. So you're saying, once you've said this an imaginary wall is a real wall, it should work on Wednesday also. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
So, L'chaira, Rashi learns it's only kosher on Shabbos. It looks like in the Rif, when the Rif brings down this din, the sicha gabe mavoi and sicha gabe pasei b'rois, he doesn't say on Shabbos is good. In other words, what we're saying is you read the Gemara, you should put in these words, sicha gabe mavoi and agabe pasei b'rois kshera on Shabbos, according to Rashi. The Gemara doesn't say that. And the Rif doesn't say it, and some Achronim want to say, the Lefi the Rif, it doesn't have to be Shabbos. Any time is good, like you're saying. Once it's a mechitza for Shabbos, it's mechitza the whole time. Maybe that's pshat. Some understand and say better than it. Not just that, you could say that. Why isn't it? They say, you have to say that it's good the whole week. Why? Because we've got a klal. The sukkah has to be a kosher sukkah for Shivas Yamim. Sukkah's Shivas Yamim taselecha. You've got to make a sukkah for 7 days. And therefore, it's got to be a kosher sukkah the whole 7. It's not enough that it's good for 1 day. With a migu. It's got to be good the whole 7. Others want to say, you know why? Because really, we're going to see the Gemara says that it's working Mekal V'chayma. If it's good for Shabbos, it's good for Sukkah. Not because of migu. There's two svaras you can say. One is that since we consider it a mechitza for Shabbos, so we have to now go ahead and consider it a mechitza also for Sukkahs. And on Monday you might say, well, we're not considering it now mechitza for Shabbos, so I don't have to say, since it works for this, it works for that. Right? But with the Kal V'chayma, you can't say that. If Kal V'chayma means, if it's good enough for Shabbos, it's good enough for Sukkah. Yeah. That applies, it's good enough for Sukkah every day. Not just when it's good enough then. No, this might answer your question slightly.
Yeah, it does.
That it depends what's the svar of here. If it's a sense, a Kal V'chayma, if it's a Kal V'chayma, if it's good enough for this, good enough for that, it should work the whole week.
So Rashi would potentially agree with the Rif if it's on the Kal V'chomer. The migo, okay, only on Shabbos.
With the migo is like only on Shabbos. You can't go ahead and say it's a good Shabbos sukkah. It's good on Shabbos. You're not carrying if it's not a sukkah b'chal. It's a contradiction. Either there's a wall or there isn't. On Monday there's no contradiction. Yeah. But on Shabbos, you've got to apply the both. There's a contradiction. Others want to say, I'll tell you why. This is a gewaltic and you could say in the Rif, even though we're talking about Chag and on Chol HaMoed, you do people who go to the zoo, they drive in their car, they do barbecues, but you're only allowed to do Eichel Nefesh on Chol HaMoed. Yeah. Listen to this pilpul. You could only do Eichel Nefesh on Chol HaMoed. You're not allowed to go ahead and drive your car for no reason. You're not allowed to, for example, sew clothes. You're not allowed to do melacha of a Baal Miktzah. You shouldn't do work unless it's Hefsed Merubah, Dover Sha'aved, I don't know what the klalim are. We're not getting into it here. If there's Dover Aved, you're going to lose out. But you're not allowed to go to work on Chol HaMoed. You're not allowed to work on Chol HaMoed. It's a week off. You get the week off. It's like Shabbos. If it's Dover Aved, you're allowed to. Right? But you can't open the store to make money. If you're going to lose money, if this is the one time of the year where the shukas, you're not. So there's melachas you can't do on Chol HaMoed. One of the melachas is carrying. So you can't carry stuff on Chol HaMoed. If you want to walk around carrying stuff for no reason, you're not allowed to. How would you be allowed to carry a Chol HaMoed? With mechitzas, with your diyumdin. Now you can carry that. In other words, you do need to say migu also during the week that you can carry that. Not just on Shabbos. So now you've got the migu the whole week also, so that you can carry. And once it's a mechitzah that you can carry the whole Chol HaMoed, even Shalei Tzorech, now it's also a healthy sukkah.
Yeah, 7 days.
It's gewaldic, no?
Yeah, beautiful.
The question is, okay, The question is if the rif holds, you need to have, if you're not allowed to carry for no reason, but all right. Let's take a look at Taisus. Once we start, we'll finish the gemorah. We'll do that first. Let's finish the SUCCAH. Says the gemorah. Why do you need both cases? Why do you need Rava to tell me, also by lechi and also by the diyumdim, that it's kasha? You need both cases. Rava has to spell out both cases. If Rava would have just told me that mavoi is kasha, so you've got the mavoi of two healthy walls, 20 feet tall, right? But you might think, you might think with these passive mivois, you've got these 4 pillars, you don't even have one wall, you have 2 walls. Why should that be good? So you've got to tell me, not only is the mavoi good, but also passive birais is good. So why can't it just tell me passive birais? V'yashmina passive birais, if you just tell me passive birais, you might think that's better. Why? Passive birais, you end up with 4 walls, but with mavoi, you've only got 2 walls and a little stick over there. So therefore, each one's got a kula, each one's got a chumrah. Rava, tell me both cases. Now, so if we tell me these 2, right? Why does he have to tell me that whatever's good for here is good for there? He makes like a klal. You might think from something chomer to something kal, we'll learn. From Shabbos, which is chomer, if these passive birais is good enough for Shabbos, if the mavoi, if having a lechi is good enough for Shabbos in a hallway, then for sure it's good for SUCCAH. You might think the other way doesn't work. Whatever's good for SUCCAH won't work for Shabbos. In other words, what's good for SUCCAH? You have Lovud works for SUCCAH, Doifin Akum, all these other things. You might think that doesn't work for Shabbos. Kamash Malan, that works, Tzricha. They works both ways. It doesn't just work for whatever's good for Shabbos works for SUCCAH. It works the other way. Whatever's good for SUCCAH also is good for Shabbos. Okay. Says, take a look at Taisus. Top Taisus. Sicha Gabi Movi Sheish Lechi Ksher. Says Taisus. Taisus says, Bein Leman Dom Perek Kabel Erev in Lechi Mishum Ekera. Bein Leman Dom Mishum Mechitza. So why do you have on Shabbos this lechi on the side of your, again, you've got a road, alleyway, 2 walls, 2 buildings, and in order to carry that, you need to put a little post on one side. That's called the lechi. Now you can carry that. But this lechi, there's 2 reasons to have it. It's a machlokes. Is it because of a kera, or is it because of mechitza? Is it like you got a real wall there, or is it just that you think there's a wall? It looks like there's a wall, right? Kasha. Either way, this doesn't make any sense. Why? Ma inyan sukkah dubai mechitza derais el mavoi derabanan. What's the connection between a sukkah, which needs a biblical wall? The Torah says sukkah. You need a wall. Is deraisa, and the lechi thing on Shabbos. It's a derabanan thing. It's mishum akera. It's a mechitza. It's a rabbinical wall. It's not a real wall. On Shabbos, he said you can't carry midrabanan. So he said this is considered you've got a wall there, midrabanan, right? But it doesn't get into the realm of deraisas. You don't have a wall there. How could this be a wall for a sukkah? That's Taisus kasha. How could just because it's a wall rabbinically, that means like, wow, hocus pocus, now you've got a biblical wall? There's no wall. You've got a post. A post is not a wall. The rabbis can say it's a wall for carrying on Shabbos because to get out of your issues of carrying. Now there's hey mama, they said you can't carry on Shabbos in this area. And they said this is considered a wall you can carry. But that means that means now it's a deraisa wall? Why? Says Taisus, yeah. Says Taisus. So let's finish this the kasha. Ma'in sukkah the boy mechis is deraisa. The mavi darbana the deraisa belay lechi shari. Mid deraisa you don't need a lechi. Mid deraisa you can carry. That's Taisus kasha. You know what says Taisus? We're talking about the lechi. We're talking about it on Shabbos. It's not a little post, a little bamboo shoot. We're talking about a proper tefach wall to the binleil, and therefore the mamidai v'pachas megimel Samach l'daifen tahainu midrabanan. In other words, what's he saying? Saying we're talking about here this lechi of a tefach. That what? Doesn't mean you've got two walls. Doesn't mean you put like on one wall a little bamboo shoot. Now you've got a lechi, a post. No, he's talking about a lechi that's a tefach. And we said before, you move the lechi 3 tvachim away from the wall. With love, now you've got 4. 4 is Raiv of a sukkah. 4 is like Raiv of 7, it's a wall 7. So you're covering most of this wall. That's a good sukkah. Now you got a proper wall, says Taisus. And for Shabbos it works like the migu. I feel it besamach l'daifen. Okay. Aval ein taretz is tefach sukkah midrabanan. You can't go ahead and tell me that on Shabbat for sukkahs you need a tefach midrabanan midrais of koshu. Okay, we're not going to get the rest of the day. It's a little bit complicated, and we're running very late. But skip to Taisus.
Good morning.
No, זה לא יעזור לך. אתה יודע, הכל בפה, מה, אתה לא צריך.
לא, אני יודע, שמע עוד סוכר,
יש שם, יש...
So another important nekuda over here. The machlekes Rashi says is what type of mavoi are we talking about? So according to Rashi, we're talking about a mavoi mefulish. That's the Bekuntras Pirish skip to 2/3 of the way down. The first word of the line. The Bekuntras Pirish the mavoi mefulish. V'lo yitachin. Taisa says that according to Rashi, we're talking about a road, an alleyway. You've got one building here, 2 walls, and there's nothing on either side of the walls, right? You can drive through 100 miles an hour.
What's mafulish mean?
Open. It's open the whole way through. It's a pathway. It's not a cul-de-sac. It's not a dead end. It's a movi mefulish. It's open. So says the gemorah. Says Taisus rather, it can't be, we're talking about an open road. That can't be. Your lechi and your kaira won't work. Why? Only according to Rabbi Yehuda. It only works according to Rabbi Yehuda. But all the chachamim, they all hold like Rabbanan, and therefore it won't work. The parent Hamad Erevin, Ramina B'Seif Chuli, B'Seif Kol Gaga is Ein Alach Rabbi Yehuda Mechitzas. We don't pass like Rabbi Yehuda Mechitzas. So this gemorah can't be going called Rabbi Yehuda. So it can't be talking about a Mavi Mefulish. You can't be talking about open road like Rashi says, because that's only called Rabbi Yehuda. And when it comes to walls, guess what? We don't pass like Rabbi Yehuda. So that is it can't be talking about. So what are we talking about over here? The Oila Mayri B'Mavoi Sosum Gimel Ruchais. We're talking about a Mavoi that's blocked off on 3 sides. You cul-de-sac, you got building on the left, building on the right, building in the middle. And now where are you going to put your lechi? On one of the entrances. But it can't be open all the way through. That doesn't work, says Taisus. It's very important. It's actually nukuda, because halacha l'maisa. You can have this. A guy's got a house, right? You got a wall to your house. What do you need to build a sukkah? If you put a wall opposite, let's say you've got your building here, there's a neighbor on the other side. Can you put a sukkah in between? Just by putting a post somewhere, you put a post, it's open between them. Movim mefulish, says Rashi, it's good. It's fine. Says Rashi, zelved. Says Tais is no. You need to have a movim mefulish. There's got to be a cul-de-sac at that end, 3 walls. Then this lechi works. So the loyal Meir b'Shabbos also begin Rucha Zemayik Gosh Yisich. So what? So if there's 3 walls, as ma'abaya, what do you need the lechi for? 3 walls is fine, right? You need 3 walls. There's only 4 walls. We possibly need 2 and a bit. So if it's a mavi mefulish, if it's a mavi ain't mefulish, you got 3 walls. So why on earth you need a lechi over here? So Tais, you know why you need a lechi? Because the SUCCAH doesn't cover all 3 walls. The SUCCAH is not touching this wall in the middle. The SUCCAH only goes halfway. So you need the lechi there in order for it to be considered. You got 3 walls: lechi, wall on this side, wall on this side. The 3rd wall in the middle, that's further away than I think gimel tvachim, arba'am. I don't know what. You know, with SUCCAH possible be arba'am, but that's SUCCAH possible 1 to 3 tvachim. So the SUCCAH is 1 to 3 tvachim away from the middle wall. So it can't be open, because if it's open all the way like Rashi says, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's not a proper lechi won't work for Shabbos. So it's got to be closed. If it's closed, what's a chiddush here? If it's closed, we don't need the lechi. You do need the lechi because the SUCCAH doesn't hit the middle wall. The SUCCAH is further away from the middle wall. That's why you need the lechi. Okay. Oh, okay. Baruch Hashem, we were zeicher to understand what the case is.
Yeah.
All right. Says the gemorah. So we're on Zayin on the base by the 2 dots, 10 lines down. Tana bottom. Nusage. Chamsa meruba mitzilsa. Right? Psula. If the SUCCAH, you got your SUCCAH on top. If there's more sun coming through the leaves than shade, possible. The SUCCAH has got to have a function. The function is to give you shade. If you don't have enough shade, it ain't good, right? Says the gemorah, Sichech v'loy machmas tfanas. Tanabonim. Chamsa meruba sichach v'loy chamsa machmas sichach v'loy machmas tfanos. In what case does the sun coming in passel your SUCCAH? That's only if the sun's coming in from the roof. But if the sun's coming in from the wall, that's fine. And the Rishonim explain, you know why? Because people have windows in the house. People have windows, you can have big windows, or the fancier the house, the more windows. And it doesn't, no one cares if the sun comes in through the walls. What people do not want is sun coming in through the ceilings. People don't have glass ceilings. Oh. Nowadays they do have glass ceilings, but it's very rare. People would do anything nowadays, right? But the point of a roof is...
And also now people with the car opening the roof, they want
the sun. Exactly. So nowadays people don't have, those days at least, people, they wanted the roof to protect them. The svara is posher. In the midday, that's when the sun bothers you. That's when it's hottest.
You have curtains in the window. Upstairs you don't have curtains.
You're saying a good svara. It's easy to block the wall. You pull your drapes, you pull your curtains. You flick the switch, comes down. But for roof, it's a whole complicated process. No one really has a sliding curtain on the roof. You need tracks. It doesn't look pretty.
And also, the sun that is from here
is not as hot. It's not as hot.
So hot, and you can like play with it. But if it's from upstairs, it's
wait, how do you play with the sun from the side?
No, you can move. Like the sun's coming like that, so you can sit down here. Or,
that's what you mean.
But it's coming from upstairs, like on the floor.
It's the whole roof.
Like you're going outside. You see why it's so hot? Because it's the milimala lamata.
I think the Rishonim say is that the main din of the SUCCAH, the main chiyuv of the SUCCAH to give you a tzal is midday. It's when it's hot, to protect you from the crazy, like the midday heat. It says in the pasuk, "SUCCAH teil etzel yom mechorev." It's to protect you from the midday heat. When the sun's at the side, 6 p.m., it's nice. It's kashmak. You get your UV rays, you get your vitamin D. It doesn't. That's not like. Okay. It says the gemorah. Guess what? It's a machlekes Rabbi Yishai, Rabbi Yishai, af machmas tfanos. If the sun comes in from the wall, parcel. Yeah, you want to be makbid on a ratio, your walls have to go to a SUCCAH to give you tzal. Omer of Yema Bashalmia, then I say this name. So what's going on? So you have a machlekes. Is the sun not coming from the walls? So Omer of Yema Bashalmia Mishmei Dabaye. My time at Rabbi Shaya. What's going on? Why does Rabbi Shaya demand SUCCAH till walls to give you Rav tzal? So it says Abaye, Dichsev, the SUCCAH is the SUCCAH ala orain haparoiches. It says in the pasuk, none do SUCCAHs. Talking about the paroiches in the Kodesh Kodashim, the SUCCAH uses the losh of SUCCAH, of SUCCAH. Ala orain is haparoiches. The paroiches is like a SUCCAH. And therefore what? Paroiches mechitzehi. The paroiches is a curtain, it hangs. And it calls it SUCCAH. The Torah calls it paroiches SUCCAH. The Torah calls this curtain in the Kodesh Kodashim SUCCAH, the SUCCAH. So you see that the curtain is also called SUCCAH. Paroiches mechitzi v'karei achmanes SUCCAH. The Torah calls it SUCCAH. Alma mechitze k'SUCCAH ba'inan. Therefore, you see that the walls have to also be like SUCCAH. The walls have the same dinim of SUCCAH. The walls also have to protect you from the sun. So what do we understand? V'Rabbanan says no. The pasuk of the SUCCAH salar and saproiches who the nikav bay purta the mechse kischach. The paroiches in the Kodesh Kodashim, it wasn't just hanging down straight. It had to be bent to the top. It had to have like a karniz. It had to be turned to the top. I guess a tefach, I'm not sure the share doesn't say, but it could just hang straight. The top of it had to go over to make it look like it was. In other words, there was some type of schach in the pareiches. It wasn't just hanging down. Pareiches went also upwards, sideways, horizontal, not just vertical. So that's the machlekes. What do we learn from this pasuk? Do we learn from the pasuk that the walls have a din of schach, and the walls also have to be atum, protect you from the sun? Oh, it's not. The pasuk's not talking about sukkah b'chal. The pasuk's telling me the din of the pareiches had to be not just straight. The pareiches itself had to be a lip on the top. Amabaye. Okay, so Amabaye says another thing. Rubai, that was Rubai. Rubai says a different thing. Amabaye, there's a big klal, and the whole Masechah Sukkah sits on this line. Amabaye, Rebbe, the author of the Mishnah, the Rabbi Yeshua that we just quoted, Rabbi Yehuda, also in the Mishnah, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Shammai, Rabbi Elazar, Acherim. I didn't count how many that is. Kulus Firlu, they all are of the opinion, Sukkah, Diras, Kva, Ba'inon. They all hold that Sukkah has to be Diras Kva. The Sukkah is a permanent abode. It can't be a temporary little flimsy thing. It's got to last forever. Why? Where do you see it? We pass obviously Sukkah Diras Arai Ba'inon, not Kva. But why? Where did you see that they all hold Sukkah Diras Kva Ba'inon? Says the gemorah. Rebbe the Tanya, Rebbe we saw. The Tanya, Rebbe, according to Rebbe, a sukkah has to be 4 feet by 4 feet. Nice big room that's permanent. Rabbi Yeshua Hodam, and Rabbi Yeshua that we just said, it's nearest kfar, you need to have walls that are atum, that block the sun. Rabbi Yehuda says in the Mishnah, if the sukkah is above 20 amas is possible, Rabbi Yehuda says it could be 50 amas tall. Reb Shimon, the Tanya, basically chazav gimel for the tefach. You need to have 2 walls and a tefach. Reb Shimon, amen. No, you need gimel chazav dalad for the tefach. You need 4 walls in the sukkah according to Reb Shimon. Why? Because it's a dirs kavah. It's interesting because we saw before that that's not the way the gemorah understood Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon said he's learning from a pasuk. Mitzel chayrev, it should be a protection. I guess it means it's got to be just like you're only protecting the dirs kavah. There's some type of dirs kavah aspect to the protection. Rabbi Gamliel the Tanya. Oh, this is already new din. Says Rabbi Gamliel, if you made your sukkah at the top of your minivan or in the top of a ship, what's the din? Parcel. Rabbi Gamliel paisel. Rabbi Gamliel says it's parcel. Why? It's not your kva. Rabbi Akiva machshir. Rabbi Akiva says it's fine, it's good. Put your sukkah in the ship. You can go on a cruise ship on sukkahs. It's fine. According to Rabbi Gamliel, it ain't good. It's Diras Arai. Beis Shammai, what's the din of Beis Shammai? The Mishnah Reishi Ruben B'Sukkah Rishonim and Achronim Beis Shammai Paislin. So you got this little tiny sukkah, and your table's in the house. Beis Shammai says it's possible. Why? Says Abaye, Diras Kva. It ain't good. Beisil Machshir. Beisil says it's fine. According to Abaye, that's the Sheish HaMachlekas. You need Diras Kva, Diras Arai. Rebbe Lezer, the Snan, Oasis Sukkah in Thrif. Now another new din says Rebbe Lezer. Let's say you've got your schach, a wall like this, a schach, and a wall like this, a schach. Basically a tent, a teepee. I don't know what you call them. You got 2 things, a schach like that. What's the din? Like an inverted V. You've got a straight wall and you just lay your schach straight down on the wall. What's the din? Rebbe Lezer paisel. Why? If you she'ein lo gag, it doesn't have a roof. Who needs a roof? Rebbe Lezer says you need a roof. I guess the nearest kva has a roof. These are not permanent things. You don't live in a house with slanted roofs, right? Maybe if it's the 2nd floor, then you can have slanted roofs. But right? You make an extension in the loft. You put slanted roofs that way. Your windows are. But no one lives in a house with a slanted roof. So what's the Chaim? Chaim is what? Rav Meir or Rishonim and Achronim? I can't remember. Chaim, the Tanya, Chaim, Sukkah, Shevach, Psula. If the sukkah is made like a shevach, a round sukkah, it's possible. If you she'ein lo zaviyos, house needs corners. No one lives in a round house. It's a chicken coop. A permanent house has walls. Now we could really go further because it's all connected, but we're not going to see it tomorrow. So let's take a look at Taisus quickly. Kulus sfirla diras kva b'inan. They're all of the opinion that sukkah has to be a diras kva. Says Tais one important line. Al kachach ein shavim. They don't all agree with the same sukkah. They don't all say a sukkah is diras kva and what is a diras kva.
Exactly?
They've all got their own interpretation of what a diras kva looks like. Why? Because Rebbe boy down Amos. Rebbe says you need 4 feet. The Beishamai, Saki Bichdei Rosh Hashanah. Could the Beishamai you need 7 tfachim, 1.5 feet.
Yeah.
So they've got different shir what diras kva is, but they both hold the reason for their shir
Is
is
diras
diras
kva.
kva. That's what is gonna determine how big your sukkah is. What is a diras kva? Is it 4 feet or is it 7 tfachim? Okay, we're going to end over here because read the rest of the is very simple. We're cutting into the time over here. Have a wonderful day. Shkoyach. Have a wonderful weekend.
Shkoyach.
Shkoyach. Wow.